So I'd like to present Stephan Rinke and Michael Tighe, who are, as the title says, using Scarf to make Moodle more motivating. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dom, for the introduction, and welcome, everybody. Joined here by Stephan. This is Michael Tighe speaking. Using Scarf to make Moodle more motivating. We'll be telling you today a little bit more about Scarf, telling you some ideas that we've had, and ask you for your ideas as well. So let's get started.
Yeah, we wanted to start with a little quote to set us in the right mind frame, because if you've attended any of Michael's and my sessions in the other iMoots, or have had the pleasure or not to see us live, we tend to focus on sort of non-technical topics. It's about using the tool rather than the tool itself. And we came across this quote by Theodore Zeldin, British philosopher. You can put up your hand if you know him. And he said, when will we make the same breakthroughs in the way we treat each other as we have made in technology? And we found this quite an interesting and very, very true quote, especially since, if you look back at the last 10 years, the advances that we've had in the way technology works. If you just look at, the first iPhone, and then, the plethora of smartphones that are out, iPads and all that. But in lots of ways, we still haven't made the same advances in the way we treat one another.
It's true. Let's take a look at the agenda so you know what's coming up. Our targets for today are to, first of all, start off with a very brief introduction as to who we are, and then I'll be telling you a little bit about Scarf, about each of the elements used in the Scarf model, describing them, and then we'll be exploring how we can use Scarf specifically to motivate your learners in your Moodle courses. Asking you for ideas on maybe what not to do, how to demotivate people, and also providing some impulses as to how to get people motivated, how to use influence and motivate them in Moodles. And then at the end, we'll be asking you for some feedback and perhaps some questions or discussions that you might have for us. So that's our agenda for today.
Yes, and as promised, we're going to talk a little bit about who we are, what we do, why we're doing what we're doing, things like that. But before we do that, perhaps you'd like to see our faces. So Michael's going to show the next slide, and you've got nice pictures. I have to admit, I've got some trouble with my webcam at the moment, otherwise I would have waved to you all. But this is what I look like on a good day, and today it's perhaps not quite such a good day anyway. So the person on the left, that's me. My name is Stephan Rinke. I work for the Essen Adult Education Center, a place where you can learn virtually anything from languages to IT skills to programming languages to doing finances, bookkeeping, but also creative things like pottery, photography, painting, drawing, these kind of things. I work for the languages department, and I'm also the e-learning coordinator, I think is my official title, which means that I'm the Moodle admin and also the person doing the teacher training for Moodle. We use Moodle extensively in the second chance education department. That's the department where people can come and have another shot at gaining their school leaving qualification, so that they've got an easier access to the job market, getting work experience and apprenticeships. Yes, it's quite a large face. I'm thinking about renting out my forehead as advertising space for next iMoot. So if you want to sponsor me, you know how big that space is now. I'll hand you over to Michael.
Thanks, Steph. Yes, my name is Michael Tighe. It's a Irish name, although I'm U.S. American and Irish by citizenship, and have lived in Germany since 1984. So kind of have an intercultural background there, and that's part of my interest. I work with intercultural virtual teams and intercultural virtual team leadership. It's kind of my specialty. I also teach cross-cultural management at the University of Applied Sciences in Cologne and at the University of Essen-Duisburg in Germany. And for those courses, of course, I use Moodle. Also working in the corporate area for big clients like Bayer or Kraft Foods, working in virtual leadership. So in that setting, we work with a lot of different shared workspaces, a lot of different web conferencing tools. But basically, my task is to design programs for improving how we work together, improving how we lead people, how we can motivate people around the world when we've never actually met them. So a lot of issues concerned with lateral leadership. And from that perspective, we came across the idea or the SCARF model and thought, well, this is not only a model that's applicable for leadership, but also applicable for learning communities. So we decided to explore how we can apply that in Moodle.
Just a little retrospective before we start. This is our third iMoot. First one we did in 2010, which was in Moodle We Trust. The focus there was that, in our opinion, trust is the driver for collaboration not just in an online environment, but in any environment. And it's a lot more difficult to gain trust and to have trust established in a learner group if they don't actually see one another face to face. So this was about establishing trust in Moodle and to use that to drive collaboration and cooperation.
Another thing we like to, Another thing we like to concentrate on is really trying to be concrete, less theoretical, being really concrete on our behaviors. What can we actually do, and seeing concrete examples of things in action. So the following Moodle Moot was, our contribution was 5 concrete tips for increasing collaboration within Moodle courses, where we surveyed a bunch of examples on how to get people working more interdependently in Moodle courses. And today on our third Moodle, we're dealing with, as you can see, with SCARF. And some of you might not be familiar with SCARF and are asking, what is SCARF? Well, SCARF is a model from brain-based research. The term or the model developed by David Rock, who also coined the term neuro-leadership. As I mentioned before, this is very useful in leadership context for motivating people when you have no direct responsibility for them, so you have no formal authority over them, or maybe you cannot reward them in terms of financial reward. So we've got to motivate people at a distance many times in different ways. And the model concentrates on these 5 dimensions, the S standing for status, or your own relative importance to others in a community. The C stands for certainty, so being able to have a stable environment, being able to kind of predict what's coming up. The A standing for autonomy, so a sense of control over events. The R, relatedness, so a sense of safety and security with others in the group. And then finally the F standing for fairness, a perception of fair exchanges between people. If we get a little bit more deeply into the SCARF model, by thinking about motivating people in terms of SCARF, this kind of model enables us to perhaps better remember, recognize, and modify the kind of core social domains that drive a lot of human behavior. So labeling and understanding these drivers in terms of SCARF makes us more aware of that, makes us more consciously aware of that. And that helps us in 2 ways. In knowing that what the drivers are, that can also cause threat responses, and that enables us to design interactions to perhaps in our Moodle minimize a threat response or feeling of being threatened. So, for example, knowing that a lack of autonomy in students can create a threat response, we might consciously try to avoid, things which would move in the direction of micromanaging students. And secondly, knowing about the drivers can also activate a reward response that enables people, or enables us as course designers to motivate others by using internal rewards. So, reducing the reliance on other kinds of more perhaps tangible rewards like money or grade systems and so forth. So what we want to do is to really minimize the danger and maximize the reward in our courses. And this is a central organized principle of the brain, the approach avoid response. This principle represents the likelihood that when a person encounters a stimulus, their brain will either tag the stimulus as good and want more of that, want to do more of that particular behavior and engage in the stimulus, so approach, or the brain will tag the stimulus as bad and will want to disengage from that stimulus. Sounds a little clinical, but that's where this comes from. That's where the SCARF model comes from really neurological research, so how the brain reacts to or reacts in responses to certain stimuli. But we'll be getting into much more concrete things throughout the presentation today. If we take a look at the next slide here, we have an overview by David Rock. So we have these typical approaches, the approach responses, and in the typical associations in the literature, and then also maybe some concrete factors that activate that response. Rewards in the form of money, water, sex, shelter. So all the things that really concern survival, but also other social factors that activate this response. So happy, attractive faces. So if you look at your profile photos and so forth, those welcoming faces on the Moodle level, autonomy, certainty, relatedness, and fairness. So creating strong learning communities as being particularly rewarding, or often eliciting a reward response. And on the other hand, the avoidance, retreating from danger, punishment in the form of removal of the other stimuli. If we take a look at the social factors there, also we see that threats in decreasing the SCARF dimensions. So we have more groupies coming in. Thank you. Siggy, we want to give you a reward response. Yes, it is related to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs as well. Although I'm sure David Rock would want to differentiate on many points. If we move to take a look at the first the S in SCARF, the dimension of status. Status is about relative importance, if you will, a kind of pecking order and seniority. And humans hold a representation of status in relation to others when in conversations, when in other kinds of dialogues like forums, for example, other discussions. This affects our mental processes in many ways. The brain thinks about status using similar circuitry for processing numbers. So one sense of status goes up when one feels better than another person in the community or in the group. For example, winning a swimming race or a card game or an argument probably feels good because the perception of increased status and the resulting reward circuitry being activated. The perception of a potential or real reduction in status can generate a strong threat response. So researchers have actually shown that a reduction in status from being excluded or being left out of an activity can light up the same regions of the brain as physical pain. So actually something quite strong, neural-based evidence to motivate us to work towards helping increase status in our learners, or the perception of status. We would like to just throughout the presentation, give you some basic input on the elements of SCARF, and then ask you to contribute with your thoughts. And using a technique, a very useful technique from coaching called paradox brainstorming or upside down brainstorming, we would like to ask you, how can you elicit a threat response to status? How could you make people, in other words, feel lower on the pecking order in Moodle? What can we do in Moodle to make people feel inferior to other Moodlers, other people? How can we generate a strong threat response? And we'll do that for each of the elements of SCARF. So what can you do? What can you do? Think about that and take a second. Please type your ideas in the text chat. And I see Cheryl's coming and criticizing them. And so spontaneously, again, upside down brainstorming, because sometimes if we reverse the negatives, we get other ideas for what we can do to increase people's sense of status, for example, that are not, that we wouldn't get otherwise, that we wouldn't get just by asking, a typical brainstorming, what can we do to reinforce that? Gareth, maybe you could be a little bit more specific with your attitude to them. You could also have a positive attitude to them. What would you say? What concrete things would you have to do? How do I see a negative attitude in Moodle? What would be evidence of a negative attitude?
Hi, if I may, I was thinking sort of negative language by saying you're not, I hate using the word stupid, but saying you're stupid, not taking someone's point of view, not saying, oh, you don't know anything about it, blah, not understanding that, yes, they have a problem and it needs to be solved, and that you need to understand them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just I'm trying, I'm trying to always get to concrete things from that. But that, thank you for expounding on that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your input there. I think if you also go on to, if you check out the notes from the previous presentation that we did a couple of days ago, you'll also see what your peers have also been posting in terms of the answers to the same questions. So that might also be a useful resource for you. Let me pass on the microphone now to Stephan, who's going to tell you about concrete things that we can do to, on the other hand, increase a person's sense of status in the Moodle learning environment. Go ahead, Stephan.
Before I do that, let me just clarify what Michael meant with the last session notes. What we did is we copied the chat, and it's added as a resource in our session space on iMoot. So there should be a transcript there available for you that you can have a look at. Okay. A lot of the time, Moodle is used not solely for pure online education, but for blended learning scenarios. And one of the things that you can do is you can use the face-to-face teaching situation to point out things that have been going well in the Moodle course, in the virtual environment. So it's, in our opinion, a very good practice to actually point out good stuff that has been happening when you see people face-to-face. And that will, of course, create an approach response status-wise from this Margaret there. If you say things like, did you see Margaret's great forum post? She raises an essential point. So if you've missed it, I'd really like you to see it. Things that we are doing in the Twitter back channel at iMoot at the moment. And I can feel myself, standing even straighter than I normally am. And that's sometimes not advisable when you're 6'9". But when people sort of praise our sessions and when they say, you really need to see this, has been happening to other people as well. These things we're doing in the Twitter back channel and also in the chat, obviously. And it does make a big difference. The other thing that you can do is you can publish the top 3 quiz results when you do use the quiz for checking whether learning objectives have been reached, and that can create a certain competitive element, which can be quite a good thing, but it also gives recognition to those people who are doing exceptionally well, without putting those down who are not doing so well. So you can here see that in this quiz Spain versus England, I should have changed it. I should have put it Bayern Munich against Dortmund, shouldn't I? But you can see that Meryl Streep did exceptionally well. And Julia Roberts did okay, and Gwyneth Paltrow did all right. And it does do something to their status, and it will also, make them feel proud of themselves, and it will heighten their status as well. It will give you that approach response that you want. You can also, some people pointed out last session that having the names there might, some people might not like that. Some people feel uncomfortable being out there. You can publish those results anonymously, and they will realize, because it will say 92%. And if I've got a result of 92, then I know who I am, and I know, wow, I'm doing all right. Okay. Another thing that we thought of was giving people extra rights by, assigning roles to them in certain Moodle contexts. What you see here is a screenshot with the German Moodle user interface, where people are being assigned the teacher role in a forum so that they can act as moderators. And that always leads to a very positive response. That's all about status too. You're being recognized for the role you play in the Moodle course, and because of that, you're getting extra rights. These things are happening on Moodle.org in the forums too. People who are contributing in an extraordinary manner sometimes get moved up to moderators and so on and so forth. And exactly the same thing, yes, custom roles too. There may be scenarios where you want to give students the right to create forums so that they can have their discussions, for example. Although that sometimes can lead to a very, very cluttered Moodle course, especially if you've taken a lot of time getting the design just right. But giving them these rights in an extra Moodle course that is linked to yours, for example, with the meta course enrollment system, that's another way of doing that. Also, this is not using badges, this is using groups that have got their own group icon. But as you can see here from the screenshot I've taken of the Moodle.org forums, you can see that Mary Cooch, I took her because she's got so many groups that she's into, because she's such a useful and valuable player in Moodle.org that I wouldn't want to miss her. But I'm sure she would agree that having those icons there actually do something to heighten your status and to make you feel proud and to want to contribute even more. And you can still see here, from the pictures that, she's involved in writing the documentation. She's got a Moodle course creator certificate. She's a very useful Moodler, and so on and so forth. And that's great. And that's true. When you've got that status, responsibility is added, Gareth, which tends to lead to the fact that people keep doing the things they are doing, which is great, because then you've got a great useful resource, so to speak, in your Moodle courses that are helping you teach in a way. And highlighted with the little number 2 next to it is the rating feature in the forums. So you as a trainer, you don't have to be the only person doing something for the status of people in your Moodle courses, but you can set the roles to such a way that everybody is able to rate forum posts. And I've seen what happens to me when people rate my forum posts on Moodle.org positively. I start feeling something inside, and it's a good feeling, and it makes me want to contribute more. And Gareth is right. It comes responsibility too, because I start feeling more guilty when I don't contribute in a long time because of other commitments, for example. But these are two ways in one screenshot how you can create an approach response status-wise. Another thing is giving virtual gifts and recognizing that somebody has done something. This is a screenshot from a cafeteria forum, a social forum. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later, where the very first person to contribute something to that Moodle course by way of writing into this forum and introducing himself is given this YouTube video as a present. So first of all, I'm writing that I really appreciate that this person has taken the initiative, has contributed to the Moodle course, and I'm giving a virtual present there. And the link to that video, by the way, is in our session space too. It's Sweet Georgia Brown played by a jazz band, and the percussion is provided by a tractor. So if you're a bit weird like we are, then you'll appreciate this one as well.
Speak for yourself. I would just like to add that this idea of virtual gift giving that works really well. So I would encourage you very strongly to try it out, collect some images, and also not only for you as perhaps the course leader, but also get your learners to give each other gifts, peer-to-peer gifts in terms of pictures and so forth, so that they can show recognition, they can increase the status, say thank you to the others for being supportive, etc. Works really great. Also, in the live online environment like this, we can also give gifts and talk about recognition. It just makes things easier. Right. Those are just some basic ideas that we had to help increase status, and just would like to ask you again, if you have any other ideas, if you have something you would like to contribute to the text chat, what do you think? How can you, in Moodle, increase status or increase the reward response?
I mean, Gareth just pointed out where the badges will work really well, and they will, if they are not given out as inflationary as we're doing it for the fun of it, obviously, the iMoot. But this can be a danger, actually, if everybody gives out badges willy-nilly for the slightest tiny-weeny thing, then they will lose their reward function because everybody can get them so easily. But to get certain badges will, of course, have that kind of reaction to it.
Right.
Exactly, they need to be kept under control and mean something. And then they will do a great job, I'm sure. And I would love to see Moodle perhaps give you the opportunity as a user of Moodle to not just add those badges to your backpack, but also to decide which ones do you want to have displayed underneath your profile picture, similar to those group images. Because that could be a great motivator too.
And just one other point from my side, from Michael. I work like I said, in a corporate setting, so I've got all these leaders all over the world who are really, pretty serious people. But they still love to engage in this kind of socializing activity of giving simple rewards to each other in terms of symbolic rewards. It works really well. So also for adult education is what I'm trying to say in Moodle. Okay, let's move on to the next kind of dimension that we would like to talk about, to the dimension of certainty, or creating an atmosphere where the future in our Moodle course is stable, perhaps even a little predictable, where I know a little bit about what to expect, so I can find orientation and not be under stress all the time. The act of creating a sense of certainty is rewarding, examples I think you can find anywhere in daily life. If you just even listen to music, that kind of simple repeating patterns is rewarding because of the ability to predict the kind of flow of information in music. Meeting expectations generates an increase in dopamine levels in the brain, so a reward response. And for example, going back to a well-known place feels good because of the kind of mental maps of the environment that we have that can easily be recalled. So the question is, how can we create mental maps in Moodle? But again, first, before we get into the positive, let's turn it upside down and think again, how can we create a threat response by disrupting a feeling of certainty in Moodle? How can we create a kind of dangerous, unstable, maybe even confusing environment for our learners? So let's take certainty and turn it upside down. How can we, as course designers, create uncertainty in Moodle? And again, I'll open the text chat for your comments, just give you a little bit of an opportunity to brainstorm. This may be unusual to some of you. The use of silence in a web conference can actually be quite useful. So I'm going to give you a couple moments of silence to write your contributions as to how you can destabilize in Moodle. Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. I like your comments are very concrete. I know exactly what you're talking about. Gareth, again, what is reliability? What concrete kind of behaviors can we do to be? I assume you mean to be really unreliable, but what can I do as a course leader to be completely unreliable?
Hi guys, I mean, like not turning up, being completely inconsistent between your lessons. So, for example, if you teach 4 groups, being saying one thing in another, and then saying something completely different in another, and then all the students then get confused because they've got different material, and yet they're all in the same course and in the same gear group. I also think, I think what Cheryl was pointing out about the system being unreliable. I've had students when I was teaching who were panicked the fact they've got home at night, 7 o'clock at night, they need to do the homework, they need to access the material. I say, oh, go away, it's on Moodle, system's not working, the internet, blah, blah, blah. So there's that aspect.
Definitely. Could I invite you to add those comments to the text chat so we have a record of them for your peers as well who might want to refer to that a little bit later on as a text resource? Anything else? What else can you do to really disrupt a feeling of certainty and security? Okay, let me pass on the microphone again to Stephan, who's going to go over some of the things that we came up with some concrete examples.
Thanks for all your contributions. There's some really good stuff there. Before I talk about this slide, can I have a raise of hands if you are a Moodle admin and you also know how to install Moodle, how to update Moodle, how to install plugins? So put up your hand if you can do those things in your Moodle. Joshua? Gareth as well. Okay, so we've got one normal person plus Iggy as well. Normal, I meant not being a techie, sorry. Isn't it weird how you always think that normal is what one is oneself? Because I know how to install Moodle because the installation instructions on Moodle.org are written so perfectly like a recipe, and I do cook. And while I'm cooking, I'm not really sticking to the recipe, but while I'm baking, so I've got the same attitude when I do anything on Moodle. I follow the instructions by the letter and in the right order, and so far, touch wood, everything has gone well. So we put those geeky-looking people in there, not to insult anybody, but we felt that certainty has got a lot to do with having a stable, reliable Moodle system running. And a lot of the time, people need to have the support of people who really know their tech stuff. So this is just to represent all those people out there who know how to install Moodle, how to get Moodle running if something goes wrong, how to update Moodle, and so on and so forth. And I'm so glad I've got a couple of people in the background. I've got the really big Moodle community where I can always ask questions. But it's also good to have 2 or 3 people that you can just ring if you're really stressing out about something that's going wrong. I just read Cheryl's comment there about not being often referred to as normal. You know, those people may not be just your neighbors or people that you've met at Moodle conferences, but you know, one thing of making sure that your Moodle platform is running smoothly is using a Moodle partner as your provider, because they have proven that they know their stuff, and you can feel certain and safe yourself as somebody doing training on Moodle platforms. So that's one thing to create certainty, is to have a Moodle platform that's reliable, stable, and available. And weirdly enough, I must have hexed it because we just finished our presentation talking about these things, and about 4 days ago, our Moodle platform went down, and the support, well, the provider that we have to use at the City of Essen, because we don't get a choice, being an office of the City of Essen, has got support hours from 7 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, Moodle went down at 6:30, so I had to wait till 7 o'clock in the morning to do something about it. And if you know students, you know that they like working at night anyway, so that was a big problem. And I'm sure somewhere else it would have been fixed a lot more quickly. And I've got to give these people that, you know, once they were aware of the problem, it was fixed within 15 minutes. No problem at all. And people have mentioned this in the chat as well. The next thing we want to talk about is having clear design, you know, making sure that people know exactly where to find what. And this is a screenshot from a course that I moderated in Germany. And it was a weekend course that was supported by Moodle. So we used Moodle as a virtual kickoff session to get to know one another, and also to provide the resources that they will want to refer to later after the seminar. But I wanted people to get to know one another and to know how to use that course. If you look at the top right block there on the right, you know, with the yellow background and white writing, any German speakers there know what this means? Apart from Ziggy, who's away from the keyboard? I'll tell you. I'm sure you can guess the word mouse, because it's pronounced mouse, and that's very similar to the English one. It means move your mouse on top of the pictures for help. Hilfe is help. And you can also see what happens if you do that. What happens is you get the link description shown. So when you move your mouse to that picture, and the red button says support on it, you will click on there and you will get to the help forum, where you can ask for help, give help, and find help, it says. Very good. I think you know the most important bit of German there, Gareth. What you also can see is that you can't actually see the forums, because I minimalized this Moodle course, since we weren't going to do a lot of collaborating within the Moodle course. So I said there's no reason why we need to have the forums in a sort of list style that you normally get on Moodle. So I put them all in the very last course section. When everything else was set up, I clicked on the little minus sign at the bottom. That means the course section is not visible to people anymore, and it's called Orphaned Activities. Can you just raise your hand if you've ever used Orphaned Activities? So that's only Gareth at the moment. I'm going to talk a tiny weeny bit about this. Oh, no. Okay, fair enough. I don't need to talk about this because I know Ziggy knows them too. But Orphaned Activities are a brilliant, brilliant way of clearing up your Moodle course and only showing those things to people that they need to see. So you can use it to get a clear design, and you also use it to get people to find things by accident. I just saw that, if Julian hadn't typed anything in the chat, I was so concentrating on the presentation. We've seen that he was there. But if you've missed the sessions that Julian did on dissecting a gamified Moodle course, have a look there how Julian used Orphaned Activities to get people to find things by accidents, and then doing that. I'm going to move on because I don't want to run out of time, but Michael was just getting ready to say something, is that right?
Yeah, I just wanted to go over some of the, as was mentioned, talking about being very clear in your courses as to the expectations. Also being clear in terms of scheduling and so forth. I've got just a little screenshots from my cross-cultural management course where students have to present. They know the topic they're presenting on. They know the exact evaluation criteria. They have the schedule. So all of these things really do provide a lot of certainty for them, especially in a cross-cultural situation where, I've got 5 students from China, 3 from Argentina, 7 from Germany, so from all over the place. And so what is a good presentation? What is a good PowerPoint presentation? For example, giving them examples of what we consider, or what I would consider in terms of evaluation, effective PowerPoint presentations and so forth. So all of that is kind of spelt out for them. They can post some questions or that they think might be appropriate questions to appear on the exam, and I can comment on them, they can comment on them, and so we increase certainty through frequent communication. And so scheduling, what expectations are and so forth, being very explicit on that and very detailed is very helpful. And as I said, particularly in a diverse learning group, and also here updating that on the news, so approaching people, having information come at them through several different channels, several different places redundantly in the Moodle.
Okay. Another thing that we always have in our Moodle courses is a help forum. Julian will be pleased now because he said he wanted this to be a bit more international, so there's lots of German screenshots. But this help forum just says, this is the place where we help one another. Everybody can look for help here, and everybody who's got a solution or part of the solution, please post them as a reply to the posts, please. And this is just an example taken from one of our second chance education courses, and this person here wasn't sure about what exactly was expected of them in the next German class test. Another thing, of course, is, we said in blended learning scenarios, tell people face to face. A lot of the time, this is the safest way to get the information across. Tell people that they need to have a look at something so that they've got the information that they need to pass tests, or to do what is expected of them. Okay, I'll hand you back over to Michael, who's going to introduce the next dimension of our, well, not of our SCARF model, but of the SCARF model.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Just one clarification for Cheryl. She was asking about the exam question forum. That is a forum where students post questions that they think could appear on the exam, and then I give them feedback as to, oh no, a question like that is way too easy for the exam and so forth, and they practice answering questions on various topics. So it's just another way of giving them an opportunity to check their knowledge so they have a little bit more certainty as to what the expectations are on the course. Of course, I don't use any of their questions for my final exam, but it gives them a good idea on what is expected. Let's move on to let's move on now to autonomy. Autonomy is the perception of exerting control over one's environment. So, in other words, how can our Moodlers feel that they are, to some degree, in control of their learning environment, of their perhaps contributions in the context of their learning community? A sensation of having choices. So the degree of control that we have over stress factors can determine whether or not the stressors alter our functioning, so just from a neurological standpoint. So we definitely do have a strong need to feel that we do have choices and we can exert some kind of control. And again, thinking about the other way around, how could we, as really, really ineffective and terrible, horrible Moodle course creators, how can we take away all sense of autonomy from our learners in the Moodle environment? What ideas do you have? Please post those in the text chat. So how can you take away a sense of autonomy? So what can you do to smash their feeling of autonomy? How can we destroy a sense of independence? How can we make people feel like they have no control over their outcomes? So here, for those of you who came in a little bit later, we're doing upside-down brainstorming. So we're doing paradox brainstorming. We're asking, what can you do to make the situation a disaster? Because sometimes turning those responses around and making them positive give us different perspectives than we would get if we had just asked a normal, quote, normal brainstorming question. So what can you do to make things really, make people feel completely unautonomous? Good, yeah. No forums, having no voice. Use a data dump. Created a great data dump.
Yeah, Michelle pointed out putting more mark weights on collaborative tasks because that, puts the responsibility on the group, and you are so not so able to contribute.
Mm.
You haven't got
Yeah, here we see a lot of
your result.
A lot of good ideas here.
Very, very good ideas there. Yeah, having a one for all kind of Moodle course, Cheryl points out. So not taking into account prior knowledge, for example, prior experience. Yeah, linear paths.
Great. So you seem to all have a lot of ideas on that. I'm wondering why, what the reasons are that autonomy seems to be the great idea generator. Let's take a look at some of the ideas that we came up with. Of course, feel free to add to that as we go along. But now we're moving on to the positive things we can do in Moodle to support a feeling of autonomy.
It actually wasn't very easy to find screenshots that would depict ways of creating an approach response with regards to autonomy, because it's so much about behavior. But we managed to find some, because this is a Moodle presentation and we wanted to at least show you some things that we've taken from Moodles. But one thing that you can do to increase autonomy in Moodle is to actually allow them to choose their own user interface language. In Michael's context, that's a very, very important thing because he works with intercultural groups so many times. But also at our college, we've got lots of people learning German, for example, in our college in Essen. And especially in the very low levels, when they're just beginning to learn the language, it's very important that they're able to change the user face language so that they won't struggle with Moodle. They're struggling enough with the German at the start. So we've downloaded all the packs that are available for the different languages that our learners use. So that's one way of doing it. The other thing is some people then can change the user interface to the language they want. I know people, Mary Cooch is a very good example. Just before she attended the German Moodle Moot, she switched the user interface language of Moodle.org to German so she could practice. So that's another way of having the autonomy to choose the way Moodle is presented to you. In some contexts, it may even be possible to allow user themes. The default is no. But there are scenarios where you'd allow people to have Moodle look the way they want Moodle to look, because the content doesn't change. Other examples were to give people a freedom about when to do what, and if possible with whom. So these screenshots basically just show that people are online at different hours, and this is such a big strength of Moodle as a teaching tool, because it's asynchronous, so people don't have to be there at the same time, at the same space, but the very, very opposite. This is just to show that people do it from different locations, and they do it at different times. And this forum post, I'm not sure whether you can read it all, but this is just an example of showing people that they can choose how to prove that they have understood a certain concept. So, this task is really two tasks, and they can choose one of them. Either they do a partner interview with somebody from a different cultural background and then report back on what they've learned in an intercultural communication forum, or if people don't have somebody from a different cultural background, or if they are shy and they don't really want to talk to somebody, things like that, they can choose a text from one of the resources that are in the course, and then post a summary in a forum. So you're giving people a choice of what to do. And this is such a powerful tool. There are some people who are very good at creating podcasts or videos. Other people are very good at creating posters that summarize topics and so on and so forth. And why not give them the freedom of choosing the product that they're going to show you in order to prove that they've understood a certain concept or that they've reached a certain learning objective. And I still see teachers, especially at our institution, that are very reluctant to give people that freedom, because it needs more work for you. It will be a lot more difficult to grade and things like this. But it's such a powerful tool at giving people autonomy, and that really, really increases motivation. Another thing is, in place of autonomy, is to give people a space where they can share their own resources on a topic. So this is actually a post from, or a screenshot from one of Michael's courses, where he's created this place where people can upload links. And that creates autonomy, because it's giving people space to find and use their own resources. So this is another very good way of creating an approach response autonomy-wise, rather than a threat one where people then withdraw and don't contribute anymore. Okay, Michael is going to introduce the last but one dimension of the SCARF model, relatedness.
Yes, the R in SCARF, so the next to last. Relatedness, of course, we come from primates. We're all social animals. We need to feel a sense of relatedness with each other. We need to conduct some kind of social grooming, even in electronic computer-based environments. So relatedness involves deciding whether others are in or out of a kind of social group, whether someone is a friend, in other words, or a foe. Relatedness is a driver of behavior in many types of teams, from sports teams to organizational silos. People naturally like to form tribes and subgroups where they experience a sense of belonging. So the question is, what can we do to create an atmosphere or a context where people can develop that sense of a belonging? The concept of being inside or outside the group is probably a byproduct of living in small communities for millions of years, as we have, where strangers are more likely to be trouble and should be avoided. So keeping that in mind in Moodle, if we again turn around the picture and turn around the situation and think about how can we destroy a sense of relatedness? What can we do to make people feel non-connected with each other, to make people feel threatened by the others? What can we do in Moodle to make students feel like outsiders? How can we sever connections and a sense of belonging? So again, same structure. We've made things a little bit predictable for you here. So same structure. We would like you to just brainstorm, put in some ideas on, again, upside down brainstorming, how to destroy the idea of relatedness in your Moodle. So here we're concentrating on relatedness between people.
So how can you design a Moodle course where people will feel completely disconnected from the other people in the same course, where they will feel like lone wolves, not out of choice, but because they have to?
Mm-hmm. So again, please try to be as concrete as possible. Think of, maybe specific Moodle activities or specific elements in Moodle.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned before in the text chat, I do anticipate going about 10 minutes over time. I hope that's okay with everybody. And I know Gareth has to leave on time. Good, good. Thank you for your ideas here. Again, they will be documented, so they are a resource for you to refer to later. Let me pass on the microphone to Stephan. Go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, by all means, keep typing things on there. Thank you so much for being with us, Gareth, and I fully understand, we're the ones that are running over time, so sorry about this. Be sure to catch the last couple of minutes in the replay then. Okay. Yeah, one thing about relatedness is profile pictures. We've been talking about this a lot of times, and I still see Moodle courses where teachers don't put up a photo, and if they don't lead with a good example, it really is difficult to get other people to use profile pictures. I'm also sorry, I'm just losing my track there. Sorry, what I want to say is that if you talk about how important profile pictures are in relation to creating an identity and in being able to relate to one another, I found that people are always very eager to put their profile pictures in once they know A, what their purpose is, and B, that they are not out there in the open, but they will be just inside Moodle, and only available to people within their courses. Okay. So having a profile like this with no face doesn't do a lot to create relatedness or feeling of relatedness in courses. The other thing is to actually take time to have getting to know one another rounds, to also incorporate that into the virtual bit of blended learning scenarios. This is a screenshot from the preparation of the Moodle Moot in Germany, which was in Munich. And we had a little getting to know one another game just before we had our workshop on course design. And it was a very simple idea. People had to open a link. Once they opened the link, they saw a choice of about 20 pictures of animals, and they had to choose one of these animals and describe why they had chosen that particular one. And you can see here that this lady from Denmark chose the cat, and she explained that she said it's a very, very good example for her so that she can remember to take time out, some relaxed time, because her cat in particular is very, very good at relaxing. The other thing then is it creates a space where people can find out similarities. Finding out similarities is one of the best ways of creating a feeling of relatedness. So I replied to her and said, I can fully understand why you chose this. And I also found out that she was from Denmark, and I was going to be visiting Denmark a couple of days later. So we already had a topic to talk about, and there was already a trust established as well, because we did feel related. The other thing is the help forum really serves two purposes. One is, of course, that people have got a stronger feeling of certainty, but it also has the purpose of giving people an opportunity to help. There's some interesting research that says that if you are helping somebody, you are liking that person more as a result. So if you want somebody to like you, ask them a favor, because it's very, very difficult to deny somebody a favor. And in the end, they will like you more. This is just tongue-in-cheek, though, but there is an element of truth to that. So the help forum serves two purposes, because if you receive help in a help forum, you do feel related to the person giving help. You establish an atmosphere of trust. But also, if you're giving help, you feel related too. So it's a true win-win situation. That's why I love having them in my courses. We also always have a cafeteria forum, a coffee house forum in our courses, where people can just use the forum to talk about anything they choose to. It doesn't have to have anything to do with the topic of the course that they're taking at all. And I've had people flog their DVD collection because they moved on to Blu-ray discs. I've had people organize carpools, babysitters, and so on and so forth. And that's a brilliant way of, getting people to know one another and feeling related. Before we do the very last one, and it only takes a minute, and it's such good fun, Michael is going to play a little game with you.
Yes, we think, we definitely need to provide these socializing opportunities also in a asynchronous environment like Moodle. So, of course, we have to think about the activity and the medium, and of course, a synchronous medium like a web conferencing tool. We wouldn't do an asynchronous activity with you. I need a volunteer. Can one of you who has a microphone ability, can you raise your hand? What I'm going to ask you to do is to read these colors. Not to read the word itself, but to read the color of the word. I hope I've explained myself clearly enough. And I need a volunteer to do that.
Ziggy has just volunteered somebody.
Again, Michelle, did you do it last time? I'm not sure. Let me unmute your microphone. Okay, Michelle.
Yeah, I think you're asking me to read the words, not by color.
So I'll do the first line. It's
okay,
green, red, blue.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, sure. Okay, it's green, red, blue, yellow, blue, black, red, blue, green, black, red, yellow, green, blue, black, blue, red, and green. Wow, it's really horrible.
Well done, well done.
I think 2 mistakes there. But great job, Michelle. We're giving you so a little recognition for Michelle there in the text chat. Thank you for doing that, Michelle. Again, just a kind of very quick activity that gives us an opportunity as a group to feel related to each other, to laugh together, to provide recognition over a fairly silly and simple thing. Just a socializing activity that we also strongly urge you to do in Moodle, when not this color one, but another one. Other ideas for socializing activities in Moodle. Our last and last topic in the SCARF model is the F, which has to do with fairness. Fairness always has to do with a fair exchange, and this was the hardest for us to perhaps pinpoint, as we often find, or we often first notice fairness when there's a lack of fairness going on. Unfair situations, of course, can generate very strong emotions indeed. So I'd like you to, one last time, to try to think what to you is an extremely unfair situation, or how can we as course creators make things really unfair for our participants, for our learners? What can we do as teachers to create a feeling of unfairness or a threat? So again, please just type down a couple ideas in the text chat. How to create an unfair Moodle, feeling of unfairness.
Yeah, Michelle, sometimes one has to change things. When I was doing teacher training, my mentor said the most powerful tool in grading is the rubber or eraser in American English. That's why you always grade with a pencil. And that's similar to changing, adjusting the grades. Yeah, changing the rules of engagement, so to speak, actually, yes. You can't change the rules in mid-play.
Yeah, changing deadlines often, especially people with a strong time orientation. But again, a lot of good ideas. Let's go on to some of the concrete. Turn the tables around again and think about how we can increase a sense of fairness in Moodle. And I'll hand over the microphone to Steph again.
Yeah, you've seen the top screenshot already when it was about certainty, but fairness is the same thing. If you make the criteria for grading absolutely open and you show them, then you can download them and look at them as a participant in a course, then of course, if you don't change the rules afterwards, you are creating this atmosphere of fairness and you're being fair. And you can see at the bottom the screenshot of the PDF open that has got the exact grading scheme there, so people know exactly what's expected of them and what they need to do to get a good grade. The other thing is, have a space where they can ask questions so that everybody has got, it absolutely clear, how they're going to be graded. That's the important bit as well. So this is just really to represent a space where people can ask questions so that there's certainty. You can see how those two link, that there's certainty, and the certainty will create fairness because you know exactly what to do. These are just some suggestions that we came up with. So learning their names, making multiple assessments. So if things go wrong, if you've got a bad day, you've got another chance. That makes it fair. great individually. That also goes in the same vein, I think, that Michelle said about sticking to the Moodle-generated marks and not actually having another look at them, being fair with workhorse load, and so on and so forth. I'm sure you can read those as well. Right, let's wrap up the session quickly to have a very short summary, and we will nearly finish on time then. I'll hand you back over to Michael for the next couple of slides.
Thanks again, Stephan. Yes, so in conclusion, what we wanted to do is to focus your attention on thinking about using SCARF, thinking about how we can work on a positive response, a reward response for the ideas of the dimensions of status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. And I think we've just scratched the surface. We have a good start. I thank you for your contributions there, also for your upside-down brainstorming, those negative contributions that we can switch around and think about what we can do, what actions can we take to think about what concrete things we can do in Moodle. I encourage you, next time you're thinking about a Moodle activity or resource, just to click on there, the drop-down, look at that, and think about, how can I think about status with a forum? How can I integrate certainty in that forum or that wiki? So keep that in mind. SCARF, easy way to remember those important results of brain research. So we should be using science to increase our own effectiveness in learning. So I hope that was useful to all of you.
Oh, okay, Michelle. Hope it's getting better.
Michael and Stephan, I would just like to take the opportunity now on behalf of the iMoot team to just thank you for that insightful presentation, and we appreciate your contribution this year.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here, and it's a bit of a bad weekend for me because we had things planned a long time ago, and so I missed a lot of sessions, and I'm going to be watching the replays as soon as I've got time. And I have to write things down to do during the time when we don't have any lectures and seminars on, where I won't be teaching. And this is already on my list. I'm going to watch all the replays. I'm so looking forward to them. And thanks for having us.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to all of you who've made such a great contribution in the text chat as well. I'm glad we could integrate you there and your ideas.
So I'm going to create a copy of the text chat now and add that also to our session space so that we've got a transcript of this available for anybody who's going to come back to this and revisit it. Okay. No, that's fine, Ziggy. That's all part of it. That's all part of grooming and creating relatedness.
That's the grooming. Michelle, we've got to give Michelle some chocolate cake stuff. I'm looking if we
Michelle, actually, if you look at your profile, you've got another badge. It's true. So you should have a badge, Michelle. Okay. That's all from us. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of iMoot, and I hope I'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye.
Me too. Thank you from my side too, and thanks to you, Steph, as well for doing this together. Bye bye, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.